On 9/11, I was in 5th grade English class. I was sitting in the back row. I was taking a vocab test. My teacher's name was Mrs. Hirsch. And it definitely impacted my life because it just made me more aware of political situations and how they impacted me individually.
I was in Pittsburgh on 9/11, and I was attending Duquesne University, and I was in my dorm room, and we have a little like living room outside of our dorm rooms. We lived in a big hall, and somebody was screaming to get out into the living room, so we all gathered in the living room and watched the TV as it was unfolding, and we saw both planes hit the towers, and then we figured out that there was a plane that went down near Pittsburgh. So because we were in a really tall building in the city, we all had to evacuate, and we sat outside on the sidewalk for most of the day, a little scared, didn't know what was happening. We all were trying to call our parents to make sure that they knew we were okay and where they were, and that we were not near the site of the plane that went down near Pittsburgh. And for basically the rest of the day, we were trying to get information from phone calls from other people, from TVs that people saw in different buildings as to what was going on and if we were safe. We were just supposed to wait outside for further instruction from our university. And then eventually, once things kind of calmed down towards the end of the day and they realized that we were safe, then we were able to go back into our buildings, but our classes were canceled that day. It was really scary. It was really unnerving, and I'll never forget it.
Go. On September 11th, I was in 6th grade. I was sitting in English class, and we saw the second tower get hit on the television, and at that point, the teachers had to shut them off. We had to go straight home after school. And the way that it affected me was my uncle worked at the Pentagon, and we were unaware if he was okay for about 12 hours.
And go. On 9/11, I was here at the Fairview Middle School teaching an 8th grade math class. It's what is now the music storage rooms where my classroom was, and a teacher that used to work here came running down the hall to my room and said that I needed to turn the television on, that we were being attacked. And I can remember it like it was yesterday. We turned it on just in time to see the second tower being hit. And it was very traumatic. We all sat in silence, and as I looked around the room, and for myself as well, there were a lot of tears rolling down our faces because it was just such an overwhelming moment. It's had a very huge impact on my life. I still get very emotional when I talk about that day. I had the opportunity to go to New York City shortly after it happened, and at the church that was right in Ground Zero, near Ground Zero, they had a gate that ran all the way around the church. And here you were in this big city that is so full of noise, and you could hear a pin drop. It was absolute dead silence there. Around the gates were memorials, candles, flowers. People left a lot of signs up looking for their loved ones because they still were searching for people and hadn't found and gotten in touch with some of their loved ones. Their pictures were up on the gates. Different schools had sent things like banners, sending their love and support. I happened to be with a group of people. We made the trip together, and one of them was a police officer, and he brought his policeman's hat and his shirt of his uniform and hung them on the gate in honor and showing support for those that had fallen. So it was really an unbelievable day that I will never forget.
3, go.
During 9/11, I remember I was headed to science class in 8th grade, and I remember it like yesterday where it was flashing across the news. The biggest impact that I can remember was the first sense of not feeling secure and feeling that there's something that could go wrong with the United States.
On 9/11, I was a 6th grader. I was at my elementary school. We were outside silent reading in the lawn with my teacher, Mr. Keplinger. everybody kind of knew something was up when another teacher came out and started talking to him and was whispering something in his ear. He suddenly got the class together and took us back inside the classroom where we sat and watched news footage for quite a while, actually. At the time, I was pretty young, so I didn't really know what was going on, but I could see that there was a tragedy, and there was destruction, and there were big scary words like terrorist, terrorism, attack, the United States is under attack. So, of course, I was really scared, and I remember our teacher was trying to explain it to us and kept saying that we should talk to our parents about it, but it was such an upsetting day, and it's a tragedy that is still a tragedy and still upsetting even for me as an adult to think back to. Go.
Where was I on 9/11? I was actually teaching 7th grade reading. I was in Mrs. Costello's current room, and I remember distinctly Mr. Patrick coming over from his science room to tell me that a plane had hit one of the Twin Towers. And I remember having the TV on and watching the news feed from the first plane hitting and everybody thinking it was just a terrible accident. And I actually saw live on television the second plane hit the second tower. And we knew then that we had something pretty serious going on. And I know we spent a lot of that day with the TV on, talking to the kids, but we really had no idea how intense it was. And obviously as the morning went on, we saw the second tower come down first, and then the first tower come down. We heard about the Pentagon being hit. Finally, we heard about the plane that came down outside of Pittsburgh. And as time went on, we learned that this was a terrorist group. It was kind of a new word to us, but it's one of those events that is etched in my mind and I will never, ever forget.
2, 3.
I was 10 years old. I was in 4th grade for 9/11. I didn't find out that the Twin Towers had been hit until after school. They didn't want to tell any of the kids in the elementary school because they thought we'd get too scared. So I remember going home and getting off the bus and my mom picking me up at the bus stop. And we were all really scared because one of our neighbors was actually in New York City that day. He was working at the Twin Towers, and we heard that he had gotten out, but that he had gone back in to save other people. And we didn't know yet if his body had been found. And we ended up finding out the next day. There were no reports on the news. The next day, still no reports. And his body never was found. But it was kind of an amazing thing knowing that he was a hero and he died saving people.
September 11th, 2001 was just like any other day. I got up, got ready, and I went to work. At the time, I was a principal of an elementary school. On my way to work that day, I called to wish my mother a happy birthday because her birthday was September 11th. Upon shortly arriving at work, I got word that there was this emergency and put on the TV and realized what was going on. And I spent that day wanting to be with my family, my son and daughter, my wife, but also I had a job to do, so I made sure everybody at the school was safe and teachers had information, and we got through the day. And I was very excited when I got to go home and be with my family and be near them and kind of process everything that had happened. September 11th, afterwards, kind of how that impacted me, there were several ways, but I think in the most significant way, I saw some really horrible actions, but I saw some really wonderful things happen afterwards. And I think that even though there is bad in the world, I think I realize there's a lot more good, and there's a lot more people that are caring and want to do the right thing, love this country, and like to help other people. And so out of every situation, even when bad things happen, I like to look for the good. And so I think that was a really monumental day and time in history of the United States when I saw that so much good came from such horrific events. And that's probably how it impacted me. And every year when September 11th rolls around, I can't help but recall the events of that day. But also, I no longer have my mother, and it's still her birthday, so I try to think of the good because she was probably one of the best people I ever knew. And so it's a very special day to me for a lot of different reasons, and I like to think of all the positive things.